me in welcoming them both.
You're welcome. Thank you guys for showing up. I'd like so this is a second version of the talk that Jim and Raditya gave, I think 2 years ago. There's been a little bit of changes, and there was some interesting development. It's a work in progress because, like VSAT, it's not as standardized as Wi-Fi, and so there's still many things to hack. And so probably every couple of years we can come up with new funny tricks. And it's actually easier. It sounds complicated and everything, and it's actually easier than hacking VSAT networks than hacking Wi-Fi or even web. And there's a disclaimer.
Yeah, next.
Yeah, this presentation's okay. This is just legalized. So it's funny because like 2 years ago when we first showed this problem with these satellite networks, there was a comment in the press. There was articles in the Wall Street Journal and the BBC, and some self-proclaimed experts say, "Oh, this is a hypothetical attack. You cannot do this. The hardware cost a fortune." And actually, you know, after the bubble, there was so many ISP backbone provider that went bankrupt. You could buy all this hardware for nearly nothing. Actually, a few years ago, you could even buy a small constellation of satellite for nothing. And anyway, we're going to start the talk, and I hope you enjoy it. There will be some little video later on.
Okay. Yeah, presentation title is like hacking the bird in the sky. It's not really bird, but yeah, it's a variety term for a satellite we get from the dictionary, Merriam-Webster dictionary. And a satellite, the description of satellite is like any object that revolves around a planet in circular or elliptical path, and all those masses that are part in that object or in the solar system, including for example, the Earth. We have the Moon, or well, actually, the Earth itself is a satellite to the Sun.
I think most everyone in the room went to school, so they probably
Okay.
know that.
The term satellite, thanks to English science fiction writer who just like passed away a few months ago, Arthur C. Clarke, who firstly conceived that the possibility of artificial communication satellites like back in 1945. And for artificial satellites, the first one was launched, it called Sputnik 1 by Russian Soviet Union at that time, like in 1950-something, 1957. And on the outside of Sputniks, as you can see, there are like 4 whips antennas transmitted on they were using shortwave frequencies like above and below what is today known as citizen band, like in 27 megahertz or something. And after 90-something days, gravity took over and Sputnik burned to the Earth atmosphere. And yeah, I think Sputnik it's a good example that on just how simple the artificial satellite can be. And we also know satellites can be used for delivering an internet service. We know 3 typical setup. It's a one-way multicast, one-way with terrestrial return. Usually the other part is dial-up or lease line. And 2-way satellite access for upload and download. And 2 years ago, we talked about the DVB. And it's really close with this kind of setup, very small aperture terminal. It is like 1- or 2-way terminal used in star mesh or similar like a hub, if you can imagine, like back in 5 or 6 years ago, we still use hub. That's the typical way how the network using satellites been configured or set up. And right now we will talk about like TDMA access, and before that we will explain a little bit about the frequency band that use. As you can see, there are like very high frequency, ultra high frequency, and today satellites do not use only like Ku or C band, but also other bands to emit. And most of these bands aren't used for TV programs, radio program emitting, but also for special causes like emitting signal for military purpose, for example, like military satellites, signal for communication, we might know Inmarsat satellites, and also band used for meteorological satellites. People in Europe might know EUMETSAT. And all those satellites are two frequency bands, one used for the uplink and sending the data to the satellite, and the other one is downlink, sending data down to the Earth, plus another extra connection used for controlling the satellite itself, but it's within. And this is like typical setup on how we made a sample. It's an Indonesian Palapa C2 satellite. The typical configuration is using IP satellite access media with the time diffusion multiplex or TDM. It's all based in Internet Protocol.
In Indonesia, the satellites are very popular because it's a huge archipelago.
Archipelago.
And it's really hard to pull cables all around the place. And satellite is one of the cheapest solutions to connect. Like, for example, you have 250 million people in the country, and you have like some of the biggest banks that have branches everywhere. And they have to serve like many location, islands, etc. And VSAT is really, really popular over there.
Yeah, the typical use in Indonesia is for transactional and interactive application like online branches. They use like ERP.
Even the ATM. Have you been to Bali? Some of you probably been to Bali. If you go to Bali, you see every ATM has a small satellite antenna on the roof. And that's very common. It's like really widespread. Even you go in the kampung, you know, the slum, where there's people, they have this satellite, they have like kampung network.
Yeah.
Martin Crow, what's this project?
Kampung network.
Cyber kampung. Yeah, it's very, very widespread. And as you will see, it's not really secure.
And for technical specification of TDMA, this setup is using QPSK modulation with the asymmetry rate for downstream, like 1.2 to 20 megabytes, and the upstream is 128 and 256 kilobytes. It's quite small compared to today's broadband terminology.
And the latency is horrible. Like typically you get 600 millisecond, 800 millisecond or worse.
It's normal. Well, it should be okay if you use for ATM. ATM requires like, it works for 32 kilobytes, it's fine. And this one is like quite similar with the previous picture. The difference is the remote station connected with the terminal. It's using digital indoor or digital indoor unit or DIU. Sorry. And then we try to explain the attacks against the satellite system. Then first, they are like hypothetical attack, meaning that it's probably true, but or maybe it's require lots of effort to do that. No one be able to.
As long as we don't make a video, it's bullshit.
Yeah. Well, first, as we might know, the easiest way is to do denial of service, like uplink, downlink, jamming. I think Roberto made a talk about this issue 2 or 3 years ago, about how American military got problem in Iraq while transferring file on using the satellite communication. And due to denial of service, we can easily conduct like overpower uplink. It will like screw everything. And also the orbital positioning attacks. In this case, you need like a central system or TTC command, meaning that you own like geo satellite hub, and which has control to one satellite and move it to control another satellite. And it's all possible. We've been doing some analysis on like Earth station in Indonesia for certain satellite that made like 1980 something to 1990. It's possible to do like a direct commanding, regime transporter spoofing, command reply, etc. And then we have some practical attack, meaning that everyone who has, or as a client, can first, well, at least misuse the service with or without the knowledge of the provider. Second one is knowing what's being transferred over the satellite. We were presented 2 years ago, the second part. Right now, we gonna explain the satellite piggybacking, meaning that we try to exploit satellite trust relationship on the VSAT network based on TDMA. Yeah, fun time.
It's the end of the day, so we prepare some video, so you're not going to fall asleep.
There's no sun. Yeah, the demo we conduct was done at Bandung. It's one of the nearest town in Jakarta, like 2 or 3 hours from Jakarta. It's our colleague Raditya.
It's near one of the Al-Qaeda training camp.
Review.
This is Reddit, by the way. Unfortunately, could not make it to KL today. Being detained by the police for interrogation.
Okay. First thing with this satellite piggybacking technique is we try to fool the satellite operator that we are an authorized customer, and we try to use the allocated frequency and transmitting our own data to our remote area. First, we have to do is like selecting the target. We can use whatever satellites that covered in our area. There are several websites, like for example in this satcodx.com. It has like information on satellites, how they operate, frequency they use, allocation, clients, what kind of communication used for the clients. As you can see, the green color one is used for
the public.
data. Yeah, it's all public.
Just add it to your card, and after you click checkout.
We just like selecting the area that we live and see the footprint of the satellite. And in this case, it's AsiaSat. AsiaSat 2 has a coverage, well, a little bit above to Indonesia, near to Bangkok. And also the transport stream bitrate, it's all explained in that website. Yeah, it's